All right, now that our drawing is set up, we are ready to build some walls. So we've done this a bunch of times already. I'm going to quickly go through it again. So I'm going to come up here to the top. And so first of all, before I do that, I want you to notice that you're not in any mode right now. You have a cursor on your screen and there's not really much going on. So I want you to know what happens when you actually select architecture mode, which is allows you to build. So I'm going to make a wall, and so I'm going to come up here and click on wall. You can see everything turns green, and I've now been given an extra set of tools that will actually help me modify my walls. So I'm going to do two versions really quickly. The first version is a little bit more cumbersome. You just draw straight lines, and because chain is selected, that lets me just kind of click and drag, click when I'm done, and when I click, it automatically starts the next wall. That's the chain. So click, 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 click. So if you zoom in, if you roll forward or up on your mouse ball, you can actually roll in, and you can see everything is connected here. You can see I have a crosshairs, everything's green. This means I'm in modify mode. My dimensions are blue, which means that they are editable. They are temporary right now. We're going to come back and we need to make sure those are permanent later. So if I want to get out of this, I'm going to hit escape once, and that kind of puts me in, I guess I'll call it idle. Idle modify, I can still click and do stuff, but the computer's just kind of waiting for me. I want to get all the way out of modify, so I'm going to hit escape again, and now I'm back to my cursor. So this pretty much just lets me select stuff. I'm going to click and drag, select all my walls, and I'm just going to hit the delete key, boom, gone. So I'm going to do this one more time here, and come in to make a wall. Instead of the line tool, I'm going to come up here to the rectangle tool because we're just making a shed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag corner to corner. And as you can see here, my dimensions are blue. So I did not mean to make my shed 39 feet by 68 feet 6 inches. So I'm going to come here and just click on this once, click on the number. I'm going to make this dimension 12 and hit enter. I'm going to click on this dimension, make it 16, and hit enter. So as you can see, they're still blue, which means they are temporary. For Revit to work, you need to make these permanent. So I'm going to take my crosshairs, and I'm just going to click on this little arrow right here. It says make temporary dimensions permanent. I'm going to click, and I'm going to click. So now my walls are done. I'm done with editing my walls, and I'm going to hit escape, and then hit escape again. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit because our shed's kind of small. Also, if you want to pan, you press the mouse ball in, the roller wheel in, and you can actually pan. So I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. I'm going to actually make our wall section. So I should have done this before I drew my walls, but it's not the end of the world. So what I'm going to do here is I'm back in my just regular old select mode, and I'm going to click and drag and select all of my walls. And as you can see, they're all the same wall. I don't have, if you select multiple wall types like this, you won't have all of these options. So because they're all the same, I have more options. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here to edit type. And what I'm going to do is you can see a family. So family organizes things by what they are. So there's a door family, window family, roof family, wall family, bathroom family, kitchen family, you get it. So anyway, I do not want to change the one that's already saved in the machine. If I change this, I'll never be able to get it back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit duplicate. I'm going to call this PLTW wall, and I'm going to hit OK. So, Normally what we've done is we've gone to the roof after this. Most of you should already have roofs. And so what I'm going to do right now is work on the wall section. So when I say wall section, that's I'm going to put in the design for the insulation and the sheathing and all the different parts that I guess make up the wall sandwich. So I'm going to come in here to structure, and you're going to have a couple options here. So you'll see first out that the thickness is 8 inches. That means that the lumber used to support this wall is 8 inches thick, which is a 2 by 8. That is too much. We're building a shed, not a skyscraper or anything big, and so I can make this a lot smaller, which is a lot more cost effective. So I'm just going to come down and I'm going to change this to a classic 2 by 4. So this is 8 inches, I'm sorry, 4 inches thick. So I'm only going to have one structural member. I just have some vertical 2 by 4s as my only structural layer. So that's what's going to stay in between these things called core boundaries. If you look up to the top, you see this top side of the core boundary is the exterior of my shed, and these below the core boundary is the interior of my shed. So I'm just choosing to build this from the outside in. You can do this however you want. And I'm going to come down, I'm going to insert a layer. It automatically puts it here in the middle, and the default thickness is 0 inches. You will see an error if you try to hit OK. You're not allowed to have a structural member 0 inches thick. They do not exist. The only thing that's allowed to be 0 inches thick is a air layer, which we are not really going to be focusing on in this class. So I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to move it, I'm going to click up, so it's outside the core boundary. And I'm going to change this from structure, because it's not holding anything up, it just looks nice. It's just a finish. And I'm going to put on some nice siding here. Siding can range in thickness from a 1/2 inch to over an inch, really depends. This could be your brick or your aluminum siding or whatever. I'm just going to pick some regular old wood. So I'm going to change my thickness to 3/4 of an inch. You can also type in 0.75, and this is kind of typical. Okay, I'm going to change the category here in a little bit. I'm just going to finish putting in all of my layers. So I'm going to insert another layer. It popped up right here. I'm going to move it down 1. This is going to be my sheathing that sits underneath my exterior wood. So I'm going to come down here to structure. I'm going to change this to substrate, which substrate is just anything that it's whatever right underneath the top part that you can see. Substrate. So this is plywood or Oregon strand board. It's usually 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm only going to use 1/2 inch thick plywood because it's a little bit cheaper. And then on the inside, I'm going to insert one more layer. Click down, 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 down. And on the inside, we don't do sheathing. We're just going to put in a layer of sheetrock. So I'm going to call this finish 2. And sheetrock is typically also 3/4 of an inch thick. So we're not going to go too much in depth with all these different thicknesses. Just 3/4 of an inch is normally a good call when you're talking about plywood, sheetrock, or types of things that go on walls. So now I have all my layers. However, I can actually go in and change the material. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to click on material once, left click, and these ellipses, these 3 little dots pop up. I'm going to click that. And so now it comes into my material browser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in wood. I'm going to see what comes up. So what this is mainly for the appearance of how this is going to look as you if you render and actually produce your drawing in like full realistic color. because this video is running a little bit out of time, I'm just going to pick some generic, I'm going to pick things that are close, and I'm going to modify these in the next video. So the thing that's close right now would be either plywood sheathing or softwood lumber. Softwood lumber is typically your 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s. Plywood is what's on the outside. Plywood sheathing is pretty close to the wood siding that we're going to put on our shed. So we're just going to select plywood sheathing for now, and we're going to hit OK. Underneath that layer is actual plywood sheathing. So you're going to click the ellipse. I'm going to search for wood. However, I don't need to because this is my kind of recent or popular materials. I'm going to select plywood sheathing again, hit OK. My structure, I'm going to make, I'm going to type in wood, and I'm going to call this softwood lumber. So to my knowledge, I really can't think of lumber that's not made out of pine, and pine is very soft. That's why it's called softwood. So softwood lumber, I'm going to hit OK. So softwood lumber. And then my last one is going to be sheetrock. So I'm going to click the ellipse. I'm going to see if they have that and type in sheets rock. The fancy name for this is called gypsum wallboard, and it doesn't come up under sheetrock, however it does come up under gypsum wallboard. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to make sure these wraps are all selected. I only have one structural material, and you don't really need to change anything else right now. I'm going to show you how to actually change these materials so they're much closer to what you actually need in the next video. But this is just the basics of setting up a wall section.